Hi, I'm Ari, I'm the Oak Witch, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about some protection charms in English folk magic. So this is going to be the first proper video I'm doing on English folk magic, and just to quickly clarify something, I'm using the term English folk magic instead of British folk magic, just to give credence to the cultural nuances that exist within the British Isles, so Scottish folk magic, Welsh folk magic, and even folk magic within England, to be fair, with the dynamic of Cornish folk magic and West Country witchcraft, to the Pendle witches in Lancashire, to East Anglia. All the folk magic can vary slightly and it has its differences, whilst also sharing very strong similarities across the board. But in this video I'm going to be talking about English folk magic protection charms because I'm going to be pulling from my own practice and from sources that talk about specifically the region of England. In the video description I will put a little video bibliography section, so if you're keen to find out where, information I've got from for this video, then obviously you can just check down there and check out those resources for yourself. So the charms I'm going to be talking about in this video are going to be ones that are easily recreatable for the beginner witch or just for the modern witch. I find with a lot of English folk magic, especially when you're looking towards like the Cunning-folk, a lot of the charms are not so easily accessible now, and some that I just wouldn't recommend trying to recreate, and obviously not very beginner friendly. So I'm going to be talking about ones that are easily doable for you guys. The first English folk magic protection charm I want to talk about is the Witch's Bowl, and of course I have to start with this one because it is a fan favourite of many. So when we're looking at English folkcraft and Witch's Bowls, they're ever so slightly different to the eclectic modern witchcraft spell bottle that you see quite a lot. And by ever so slightly, I mean very. The Witch's Bottle itself as a charm has seen variances across different regions, but overall it's this jar bottle. What they would usually use is Bellarmine jars. Now these jars are very common and you see a lot of old witches' bottles using these Bellarmine jars, but by 1700 importing stoneware kind of subsided and glassware peaked. So when you're getting to the 18th century you see a lot more glass witches' bowls, but obviously for the modern witch you can just use any jar, it doesn't really matter. But that aside, what you actually put inside the jar has its variances. I should discuss there has been records of animal remains being put inside, and I'm not going to give the intricacies and details of such because I just don't think it's beginner friendly, and I just don't want people trying to recreate it based off of my word. So I'm not going to be talking about that, but just to let you know that is a thing that happened. But the emphasis was placed on putting inside this bottle your own personal material. So this could look at your urine, this could look at, your hair, and these would be placed inside the bottle along with some salt perhaps. I've read records of like eggs being put inside. Another emphasis was more sharp objects being placed inside, such as pins or nails. Now for the modern witch, of course, what you do with your own personal material is up to you. A great adaptation of this is putting in protective herbs, banishing herbs, and any sort of correspondence for that. You can put in crystals if you wanted to. And this is where you sort of see this idea of the modern spell bottle start to form. But the way in which these witch bottles actually worked was very different to how they kind of work now for the modern witch spell bottle. This witch bottle would be sealed up with clay or some sort. The presence of the sharp objects and or the heating it over the fire is sympathetic magic in that the bottle itself acts as the witch's bladder. So the person who has sent that baneful magic, that bottle represents their bladder or their sort of body, I guess, and heating it over the fire would cause them so much pain that they would have to be forced to reverse the baneful magic, the baneful spell. Now something to add, this is obviously fighting fire with fire, and I do not recommend anyone or any beginner to flippantly go into this type of attack attack magic or counter-attack magic, just without any thought, without any consideration, or without any discernment. Whatever your moral compass or ethical code, is important to be mindful of the consequences of your actions. Just have to disclaim that there. But this is how the witch's bowl would be used. Other records show that if the heating didn't work, it would be buried. And then this gets into other records showing the witch's bottle being used more appropriately, which is more indicative of how modern witch spell bottle works. So similar ingredients would be put inside the hair, the pins, and this would be buried. There has been archaeological discoveries of these witches' bottles in many different places, but a common practice was burying them underneath the hearth, like inside the fireplace, underneath the thresholds of your house, so for example underneath your doorstep, or within the walls of buildings. But an eco-friendly modern witch alternative I present to you is getting like a plant pot, just a pot or something, fill it with soil, and place this by your front door, your back door, on a windowsill, in your garden, like on the garden edge, whatever liminal space around your house, and place the witch's bottle inside that soil in the pot. It's still bearing it, right? And a custom that's been recorded is actually, as you're bearing it, saying the Lord's Prayer backwards. So that is a alternative protective charm or spell that you could utilize. So the second type of charm I want to talk about are hagstones. Now these are otherwise commonly known as holy stones or fairy stones or lucky stones, and it just kind of refers to a stone that has a naturally worn hole going through it. So you will find these near sources of water such as rivers, or you find loads by the beach as well, like on the beach. But the emphasis is on that it is a naturally worn hole. You can tell when a hole is man-made when the circle looks too perfect and like maybe too sharp on the edges, whereas a naturally worn hole will look a little bit irregular and quite smooth. So the idea of this charm is to suspend the hagstones from different places. One charm entails tying a hagstone to your door key, and this will protect your house. Another variant of the charm is hanging a string of hagstones to thresholds within the house. For example, this could be on your front door, on your back door. Here's a personal example of this charm. So this is a hagstone charm that I've had on my window for just ages now. And they say that the number of hagstones always has to be odd. So I've got 3 here, and my modern witch adaptation, I guess, is adding this black obsidian arrowhead, which I got years ago when I was a kid, so I figured I'd put it to use, and yeah, this just hangs by my window. Here the magic works in that it's said that evil spirits get confused by the circle and they can't pass through them. So obviously in this sense the hagstone acts as a ward, as a barrier for the evil spirits, as they cannot pass them. So yeah, that's why people say have them by your front door, your back door. That's why I have mine on my window, and by, I guess, liminal threshold spaces in your house. So this charm is obviously really easily reproducible. Just go to the beach and grab a bunch of hagstones. They're really easy to find there. This idea of hagstones as a ward is easily adaptable as well. So I have mine, as I've said in my altar video, I have mine underneath my altar, at each corner of the altar table underneath. I have them by doorways, I have them on windowsills. I just have them dotted about my house. I just have a whole bunch of stones everywhere around my house. And they just act as wards. Another way which you can use them, if you're making a puppet or a charm bag for protection, you know, for defense, self-defense, then you can add a hagstone in there, and that can, you know, be added as a magical ingredient. So yeah, hagstones are great, and they're really easily accessible to use in your craft. So the next protective charm I want to talk about is the Witch's Ball. According to the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, these glass balls were manufactured in England by Nailsea glassmakers from around 1788 onwards. So the idea of this glass ball protection charm is that they were suspended in dark corners of a room or by windows, and evil spirits would essentially be reflected back. So any evil spirits, any harmful energy or baneful magic sent your way, it would get reflected by the witch's ball. Other variances of this charm has included the idea of it being a spirit house, much like the witch's bottle. So this is where evil spirits are actually attracted to the witch's ball and get stuck in there, as opposed to being attracted towards you and then affecting you. So it's said that these witches' balls should be regularly wiped clean as a result. A modern witch alternative that I've seen of this charm is to grab a clear ball, like an ornament, and fill it with some protective herbs, some banishing herbs perhaps, and hang that again in, by the window or just in any sort of threshold in your house. And of course you can add in your own personal material along with these protective herbs. If you didn't really fancy using urine, you can add in obviously your hair or like nail clippings. I think nail clippings are a decent alternative. So yeah, that's just an option if you did fancy that. Also, something to say, you don't have to use personal material if you don't feel comfortable doing so. There is no requirement for you to add in your hair or nail clippings or whatever to practice these charms. You don't have to do it. Just be careful and just don't do things you don't feel prepared to do. But yeah. So the third charm I want to talk about is worn shoes. Now this may seem a bit of a silly one, but I think it's really neat. Archaeological records have shown just an abundance of things that have been purposefully hidden in the walls within really old buildings within England to act as apotropaic, charms, as defensive charms. There's been a whole bunch of stuff. And a book which goes over these is Magical House Protection by Brian Hoggard. I really recommend this book. It's on Scribd if anyone has that. But yeah, anyway, one of the objects which has been commonly found within buildings within England are old worn shoes. Now these shoes have been found up on a ledge above a chimney, they've been found within walls, as I said, below floors, and even in the thatch of a cottage. The way in which the magic works here is that the worn shoe, obviously a shoe that you have worn yourself, holds an impression of your foot. So it has the sole of your soul. And the idea is that obviously as you have this sort of almost like tag lock of you defensively around the house, any evil spirits, any baneful energy or magic sent your way gets distracted by the shoe, by this amulet, as opposed to you. This is the same type of magic that is seen in the witch's bottle and in the witch's ball. This type of thinking is seen quite a lot throughout different practices in English folk magic. But yeah, that's how it works. And obviously this is something which is quite easily accessible for you to do if you just have an old shoe. Now you can spice this up. You can add in some dried protective herbs inside the shoe. I just make sure it's dried to not mold the shoe. Add in some crystals if you want, add in a petition, add in your personal material if you feel comfortable doing so. And there you go, that can act as a little ward. And to be fair, now I think about it, this is actually quite a good closet witch alternative because it's just a shoe. If you don't add stuff inside, you can just use the shoe. So the last protective charm I want to talk about is the term Abracadabra. Now this was mostly seen as a healing charm, but I have read records of it being used for protection also. So within English folk magic, there are a lot of spoken and written charms, of which I will probably do a separate video on because I just couldn't go into it in this video and just be hours long. But I wanted to mention this one because a lot of people still say the term abracadabra and don't actually realise its origin. So as a folk healing charm, abracadabra was written on parchment 11 times downwards, missing a letter off the end each time. So it kind of looks like a upside down triangle. This would be written down and the Cunning-folk would direct the person to hang it around their neck, and the magic here works sympathetically. So as the term abracadabra decreases, as will the illness of the person who is wearing it around their neck. And the same has been recorded in reverse. So if you write abracadabra upwards, so it looks like a normal sort of upside triangle, then you can build up your strength. But a record from Exeter has shown the same idea of the sympathetic magic Abracadabra, decreasing to decrease the baneful magic that has been bewitched onto somebody. So it's the idea of acting as an uncrossing. The words would be written on a piece of parchment, and this was tied into like a silk bag, and the silk bag was hung around the neck. There's also a custom within English folk magic, so if it like touches the floor, it loses its power. So that was added in as a stipulation, as it could not fall on the floor. And there has been other words of a similar vein, which I'll place here, that's been used. So a really simple way you can use this Abracadabra charm is to literally just write it on a piece of paper and have this in thresholds. So you can have it above a doorway, you can have it in your chimney, you can have it by a window, you can have it under your doormat, for example. There are numerous records in English folk magic of certain charms, certain verses, certain symbols being written like this and put in places like this around the house, around different areas. So yeah, you can definitely do this with the Abracadabra charm and have that working as a sympathetic defensive charm. Using this term is really easily adaptable for modern witch spells. One example I want to share with you is a uncrossing protection spell. So grab a piece of paper, a pen, a candle plate, a black candle, and maybe some protective herbs. Any protective uncrossing herbs that you have on hand. Have the written Abracadabra charm on a square piece of paper, put it on your altar or wherever your working space is, place your candle plate on top, and get your black candle and heat the bottom so it sticks on the candle plate. Here obviously you could carve into the candle, you can anoint the candle with an oil, whatever you want to dress up your candle, and before you light the candle, sprinkle the protective herbs in a circle around the candle. Now, as you light the candle, you can say a chant, you can say an incantation. In terms of the Cunning-folk Bible verses are utilised in this spell, but you can use anything really. Just say what intuitively feels right for you during the spell. You can invoke the spirit of the herbs you're using, of the flame. Use whatever type of magic that works for you, that you adhere to, you know, do your visualizations, the energy work, and there you go. That's a spell that you can easily adapt using the Abracadabra charm. So yeah, there's loads of ways in which you can take these charms that have existed in English folk magic and adapt them to suit your own, because that's what witchcraft is about. You know, you can be completely reconstructionist if you want to, but as times change, traditions evolve, and I think there's no harm in using these things and making them your own in a respectful way once you've done your research. I think it's nice to sort of adapt these spells to make them your own, and that's how you will make the magic flow better for you when it feels right for you and it feels intuitive. So yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. These were only a few protection charms in English folk magic. There are so many. There's so many, I could be here for hours, so I had to reduce it to 5. I will probably do follow-up videos because I like talking about English folk magic. So yeah, if you like this video, give a like and let me know down below and I will do more of these videos. Also, really quickly, wanted to say again, I have a bibliography for the resources used for this video in the video description. You can see that by clicking that down below. There are mainly books, but there's the website of the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, which I thoroughly recommend going through. It's so good. There's lots of records there. They have their collection uploaded online. Not all of them have pictures, but a lot of them do, so it's good to sift through, and yeah, really good website. Another real quick mention is book club has started. We have started reading. So yeah, we are doing that right now. So if you're interested in reading this with me and with a lot of other people in my Discord server, the link is down below. And you'll see the reading schedule by checking the pinned messages in the book club text channel. So check the pinned messages, the reading schedule is there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you learned something new today, let me know below. If you already use or going to try out some charms, let me know. I am interested. So thank you again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.